Good morning, everyone, and welcome into On the Rise at AM 1410 WRMN. I am your host, Derek Geyer. Alongside me is Mike Napolitano. How you doing, Mike?
Pretty good. I am ready for another live edition. I know last week we came to you guys with a pre-recording, so happy to be back in the studio, and we have a lot of great news to get to, starting off with the Kane County Cougars winning the Miles Wolf Cup, and it was just an incredible playoff run.
It was definitely an incredible playoff run. They go 7-0 in the playoffs. They were undefeated, which I know I didn't see coming. What about yourself, Mike?
No, definitely not. But, I mean, as you mentioned, a phenomenal run. And we are going to get to an incredible interview that we had with Cougars play-by-play broadcaster Connor Klingon, friend of the show. And we talked about our thoughts a lot about this playoff run and them going undefeated and whether or not it was just a matter of them getting hot towards the end of the season. So I'm very excited for you guys to get to hear that. But we wanted to give a quick recap. The Cougars dispatched the Dogs in Game 2 of that Chicagoland rivalry with the walk-off, as we mentioned last week. And then Winnipeg needed a Game 3 to knock off Fargo-Moorhead in the Red River rivalry. That led into the Miles Wolf Cup, where the matchup was set between Kane County and Winnipeg. Saturday night was the first game at Northwestern Medicine Field here in Geneva, and you and I were both at that game.
Yeah, we were. It was a great atmosphere. The crowds came out, even though it might have been a little lacking as far as crowd support, but I think that's the way. It's the weird schedule of the playoffs for the American Association. Yeah,
we talked about that with Connor Klingon, and I don't want to reiterate the same thing that you're going to hear later, but my thought process has always been, these games are not on the normal schedule.
Right.
Especially, they didn't know if they were playing at home up until that Wednesday, but then they realized that there was an event going to happen that they needed to set up for. So even if Fargo-Moorhead won and the Cougars were the higher seeded team, they were going to forfeit their home field advantage in order to still have games 1 and 2 at Northwestern Medicine Field. But even then, like we said, that schedule doesn't come out well in advance. It's basically the week of.
And in some cases, it's like, what, 2 or 3 days beforehand?
Right, yeah, so there's not a whole lot of time.
Right.
So you mentioned the crowd lacking. I think it was a great crowd, but it was a little bit less than there was for that Dogs versus Cougars matchup, and a lot of that is because you have that local rivalry. I don't think as many are traveling from Winnipeg to see Game 1 and Game 2, especially knowing that at least Game 3 is coming back to Winnipeg. But let's get into this first game. The Cougars score the first run in the first inning to get things started, and we have a couple of clips that Derek wants to cut to, so we're going to let you have a listen to those.
Yeah, we're going to get to Game 1 of the Whip Around.
Welcome to the American Association Whip Around. The Miles Wolf Cup final is here. The Winnipeg Goldeyes taking on the Kane County Cougars to decide who wins the Miles Wolf Cup. Game 1, and the Cougars would go up early in this one. Right away in the first, Cornelius Randolph steps up and skies this one out to left. Been a consistent force all year for the Cougars, and he gives them the 1-0 lead there. But then Greg Malley really pitched well tonight for Kane County, and he got some help on defense. Randolph with a nice catch out there in left. In the sixth, though, Josh Allen with the play of the night at second. A diving, what a play from Josh Allen, stepping up. And the defense was the most crucial part of tonight's game here in the seventh. Greg Malley gets his final out, a 7-inning shutout performance, just 4 hits, couple of strikeouts as well from the left-hander. We go to the ninth, though. Tyler Beardsley trying to lock it down. He got the first 2 outs, but Dason Cruz comes through for Winnipeg to tie it up and get them on the board. An RBI triple from the All-Star with 2 down, a clutch hit for Cruz. However, the Cougars would be able to get out of it and keep Cruz at third, and that sets this up in the 11th. Neither team scored until Cornelius Randolph steps up again and drives home the winning run. Kane County walks it off for the second consecutive game.
And that was brought to you by the Whip Around with Matt Yeasel, courtesy of the American Association.
So as you heard in that clip, it was Dason Cruz, the third baseman, hitting a double into the right center gap that scored Evan Alexander, the pinch runner for the catcher Rob Emery, who had hit a single. And then in the bottom of the ninth, what they didn't cover in that clip, and I know you were on edge about it, and I was too.
Oh yeah.
The man leading off the inning was left fielder Cornelius Randolph, who he drilled a single, and he had been a force in this whole series. Of course, we're going to get into the point that he became the playoff MVP, but
Yep.
I said with no outs, maybe you lay down a sacrifice bunt and move the runner over. The Cougars decided to go with what looked like it was supposed to be a hit-and-run play.
Yeah.
But Randolph didn't slide into second base, and he would have made it if he was under the tag, but instead he is caught stealing. It might not have mattered as Todd Lott grounds out to the third baseman. Josh Allen then walks, and then Alex McGarry strikes out swinging. But you know what? You never know, Derek, right?
Yes. So when Cornelius Randolph, it did look like a hit and run. But it also looked like he could have had a straight steal, too. He just went into the base standing up, and he was tagged out by the shortstop. That was a little bit perplexing, confusing on our end, because I know at that time I had my hands in my head.
Yeah. Well, and then we go to the 10th, the top of the 10th to be exact, and Winnipeg advances their leadoff runner, first baseman Jake McMurray, with the sacrifice bunt option from the one hitter and shortstop who had entered the game in the 8th. That was Andy Armstrong. So we do get to see that the bunt play does work, but as you said, a slide. If it was only a steal play, I'm not sure why he didn't slide.
Yeah.
Maybe he was thinking it was supposed to be a hit and run, and the hit just never came, and maybe he was going to round second. But yeah, just really an issue on the base path for the Cougars. McMurray did advance to third base on that 3-1 putout. That was first base to pitcher covering the bag, if you don't know the numbers in baseball. And then they get out of the inning, though. Nothing doing as the Cougars go into the bottom of the 11th. It's right fielder Armand Upshaw who leads off with a single, and then Cornelius Randolph, he's at the plate this time. And Armand Upshaw shows him how he steals second base, gets in there, and Randolph makes up for it with the walk-off win that scores Upshaw, and as the second Cougars walk-off in just as many games. And that second game against the Dogs, it was Upshaw himself who was the hero, so he gets to be the winning run on this one. So after that, we go into the second game, which was Sunday afternoon, also at Northwestern Medicine Field, and we have some audio from that one as well.
Game 2 of the Miles Wolf Cup Finals between the Goldeyes and the Cougars. Another pitcher's duel from Northwestern Medicine Field for Winnipeg. Landon Barassa stepped up like he has all year long for the Goldeyes. 7 2/3 innings pitched, just 8 hits, 1 earned run, no walks, and 5 strikeouts for the right-hander. 2 down in the 4th, Todd Lott bloops a single to right field, bringing home Cornelius Randolph to score, and that would hold up thanks to Jack Fox, the right-hander, with 7 not only shutout but no-hit innings. 1 walk, 3 strikeouts on the day. What an incredible performance in the Wolf Cup final. And then C.J. Carter comes on in the 8th and preserves the no-hitter. He gets the strikeout after a leadoff walk and pitches a clean top of the 8th inning. However, the 9th, Tyler Beardsley comes on for the save, and Nick Anderson leads off the inning with the Goldeyes' first hit of the afternoon. Then following him, Ramon Bramasco trying to lay down a bunt, and it hits off of Beardsley. Both runners are safe. Later on in the inning, Edwin Arroyo hit by a pitch to load the bases with 1 down. Could have been real trouble for the Cougars, but Symington grounds this one back to Beardsley, to home for 1 and to first to end the game. What a play to end it after what could have been disaster for Kane County. They win game 2, another pitcher's duel, by a 1-0.
And that was, yet again, Matt Yeasel of the Whip Around, courtesy of the American Association. And he alluded to the 1-2-3 game-ending double play, which later on we'll be talking to Connor Klingen about, the host, or actually the play-by-play guy of the Kane County Cougars. What you got, Mike?
I found this gem at home, so I figured I'd pull it out for today's show. I didn't even show you before, so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, and by the gem at home, he is referring to an old-style Kane County Cougars baseball cap. For those of you watching on the live internet stream on YouTube at WRMN 1410 AM, you could see Mike in his snazzy hat. Had to describe it for the radio audience, obviously, Mike, because they can't see.
Right. Well, but what they can see is our breakdown of how we illustrate this game. And in that second game, as you heard a little bit in that clip, it was a little bit of deja vu because the Cougars get off with an early lead, but it's still, again, a 1-0 lead. Every game in this series was very close. This time it wasn't the first inning that they scored. It was the fourth inning. Both teams had a no-hitter up until that point. Of course, not a perfect game, but the Cougars, as you heard, they go into the ninth with the combined no-hitter, but it was Jack Fox who goes 7 innings pitched, no runs, no hits, no errors, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts for the Cougars. I think the most impressive part of this was that it was only 3 strikeouts through those 7 innings, so a lot of balls put into play, but he relied on his defense, and they got him out of it with still that no-hitter intact. C.J. Carter would be his reliever. Carter immediately walked DH Max Murphy, who was then moved over to second with a sacrifice bunt from Evan Alexander. And then it's a 1-3 fielder's choice on that one. That would be Winnipeg's first runner to reach second base all day, and that was in the 8th inning. But the no-hitter was still alive as Rob Emery strikes out, and Robbie Enriquez flies out to the left fielder to end that inning. And with a 1-0 scoreline, it was deja vu, as I mentioned, that settled in for the Cougars as the game went to the 9th with closer Tyler Beardsley coming in to be the third leg of that potential no-hitter. And Beardsley, as you heard, gave up that immediate single to the leadoff man in the 9th. And look out, another infield hit puts runners on first and second. Those runners get moved over into scoring position as another sac bunt from this Winnipeg team moves them over. It was Edwin Arroyo. He was then hit by a pitch to load the bases and give the Cougars the force at any base. And the former Schaumburg Boomer Miles Symington steps up to the plate and a 1-2-3 double play to end that inning. And the Cougars get out of both games at home unscathed.
Yeah, and it was definitely a defensive battle for the first 2 games. Instead of going into the third clip of the evening, because I don't think we could do it any justice really. So what I think we're going to do is I think we're going to toss it to the Connor Klingon interview, and why don't we just listen to this with Connor?
We go to the bottom of the 9th, and the Kane County Cougars are 3 outs away from an American Association championship. Cougars lead 5-3, and Tyler Beardsley, the closer, comes on. He'll face 6, 7, and 8 in the Winnipeg order. It's been an adventure for Tyler Beardsley in this series, but he has been dominant throughout the season. And in the postseason, Beardsley with a 1.29 ERA. Here's Emery, who's 1 for 2. First pitch is shot through the right side, a base hit, and the Gold Eyes have the leadoff man aboard to start the bottom of the 9th. Well, this Winnipeg team has battled all night long, and they're not going to go down easy with their backs against the wall. Jake McMurray at the plate. The 1-0. That gets away, a wild pitch. It's a 2-0 count, and Emery moves up to second. Here's the 2-0 pitch. Grounded to first. McGarry has it. He'll take it to the bag himself, and the Cougars are 2 outs away. Emery moves up to third on the play, and here is Nick Anderson. Here's the 2-2. Swing and a miss, and the Cougars are 1 out away. Here's the 1-2. On the ground, Beardsley has it. Flips to first, and the Kane County Cougars are Miles Wolf Cup champions in 2024. For the first time, the Cup is coming home to Kane County, and the Cougars have won their first championship in 10 years. A 7-0 run through the Miles Wolf Cup playoffs. Perfection in the postseason as the Cougars win their final 9 games of the season, dating back to the regular season, to win the 2024 Miles Wolf Cup championship.
You are listening to an exclusive on the Rise. an exclusive interview here on AM 1410 WRMN. I am Mike Napolitano, and my co-host.
And we're just stepping all over one another on this Zoom. I'm Derek Geyer, and the voice that you just heard is the voice of Connor Klingon of the Kane County Cougars. How you doing, Connor?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. Yeah, feeling really good after that win. I guess it was on Tuesday night. I'm losing track of my days after the bus ride back from Winnipeg, but that was a great run, and appreciate you guys playing that clip there, kind of just reliving some of the nerves in that ninth inning, but Tyler Beardsley really came through there at the end, and the Cougars were able to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. So right off the bat, though, we have to give a little bit of backstory for the listeners. I have to admit that Derek and I were a little bit bandwagoners here. Nihil Broadcasting. Well, we got the show with about a month left in the season here. This will be our third episode, 3 weeks in. But my Nihil Broadcasting partner and friend of mine as well, voice of the Chicago Dogs, Aaron Schellen, would be overjoyed that I'm outing myself here. But when we were first told that we were going to start on the rise, the Cougars were just about a month left to go in the season. And we caught the listeners up on the end of the season, and of course the playoffs as well. But in that meantime, it was a huge point in the season where Joe Brand, Cougars play-by-play announcer, was announcing that he was accepting the radio play-by-play position for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So he'd be leaving behind Chicago Blackhawks with WGN, and even more pressingly, the play-by-play position with the Kane County Cougars. Well, who steps in? Another friend and colleague of mine, Connor Klingon. So walk me through the process. Were you doing color commentary with Joe before he had to leave? And did you slide over to the play-by-play chair, or is this position totally new for you?
Yeah, so actually it's my third year with the Cougars. So kind of officially I was Joe's number 2 broadcaster over the last 3 years. And basically how that works is for the home games, he would do 6 innings of play-by-play. I would do color, and then I would get 3 innings of play-by-play every night, which was, very nice of Joe to give me those opportunities and to bring me into the organization. I grew up in the area, so it was an awesome opportunity and was really excited to get it. So, Joe with his career, the way that it was with the Blackhawks and everything, there were a lot of times where he had to miss games as well. So in those moments, I would slide over and just do the play-by-play. And, when he got the job with the Penguins, we were all super pumped for him, kind of hoping that he'd be able to stick around for this playoff run, but he had to get out to Pittsburgh and get started out there. So, he told me, hey, just have fun with this playoff run and kind of just let it rip. But I don't think I could have expected it to go as well as it did.
Okay, Connor, you said that you had a little bit of nerves going into the final game of the Miles Wolf Cup. What were you able to, how were you able to control that, just get through the process and, have the game-winning call?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think what helped me actually, Derek, is just having a ton of exciting moments before that game.
Sure.
They had a walk-off hit against the Dogs that clinched the East Division Championship. They had in game 2 of the series, Winnipeg had the bases loaded. It was a 1-0 game, and it was a 1-2-3 double play to end the game, which is, you rarely see a 1-2-3 double play. I don't think I've ever seen a 1-2-3 double play to end a game, especially in a championship series. So I think going into that third game, I just thought, hey, there's been a lot of exciting calls already. And there were times where I was trying to think, okay, what are you going to say? But I didn't write anything down or anything like that. I just wanted to let the moment come to me. And I will say that having a ground ball right back to the pitcher, that makes it a little bit easier. I had a second there to just gather myself. I knew Tyler was going to be able to make that flip to first, but I tried to just carry the mentality of the team. They were very loose, very confident throughout that entire playoff run, and they never really seemed nervous at all. I had a few moments there, but at the end, felt pretty confident.
Well, going back to that Tuesday night, the Cougars secured their 3rd championship in franchise history and first ever in the American Association after a historic 7-0 undefeated playoff run. They are only the 3rd team in the American Association in history to go undefeated in the postseason. That's the 2021 Kansas City Monarchs, and the very franchise that the Cougars knocked off in this year's finals, the Winnipeg Goldeyes, who went 6-0 back in 2012. I have to say that this run kind of reminded me of my earliest baseball memories. I was 6 years old in 2005 when the White Sox won the World Series. They had that 11-1 historic run.
Oh, here we go.
88-year, ended an 88-year drought. And that included a 7-game win streak to close out the ALCS against the Angels. And then, of course, the 4-game sweep against the Astros that ESPN loves to forget. But the difference was that the White Sox went wire to wire in that regular season. They had a dominant 99-63 record. Yeah. But these 2024 Kane County Cougars, although they finished second in the division, they were only 10 games above 500 with a 55-45 record. I don't think anyone expected to see them have this historic of a postseason run. Had you seen these shades of dominance through the season, or was this more of a matter of getting hot at the right time?
It's interesting you point that out, Mike, because really in the month of August, this team was kind of treading water. They got swept twice by the Lake Country Dockhounds, who ended up being their first round opponent in the postseason. So that certainly gave you a little bit of uneasiness just going into the first round, knowing they were playing a team they had lost to 6 times in a row. That really made a difference in the Cougars kind of falling out of the race with Cleburne for first place in the regular season. There was a stretch there in June where they were on top of the division. It was really the offense that carried this team in the first half of the season, and it was just consistent base hits. This team didn't hit for a ton of power. They're kind of built for Northwestern Medicine Field, which is more of a pitcher's ballpark. But then the second half of the year, it was more about the pitching. The addition of Greg Malley was massive. Their ace, he joined the team on June 12th, former big leaguer. And then second half of the year as well, Jack Fox kind of figured things out, a veteran. He didn't have the first half he wanted. And then the bullpen really came into form as well with, Tyler Beardsley locking down that closer's role, CJ Carter, Logan Nissen, Vin Timpanelli, those guys at the back end of the bullpen, they really got it figured out in the second half and just carried that into the playoffs. But, there's no way I could have expected a 7-0 run. Our manager, George Samus, on the bus ride back, he just kept saying 7-0, man, 7-0. Like he couldn't believe it. And it was his 5th championship as a manager. He has won championships with 3 different independent baseball franchises. So he is probably the greatest manager in the history of independent baseball. But even to him, this was a shocking run. He managed the New Jersey Jackals in 2001, 2002. They won the Northern League back-to-back. Then he went over to the St. Paul Saints, which they're now the AAA affiliate of the Minnesota Twins, but they're probably the most famous independent baseball team. They kind of really started all the kind of wacky promotions, stuff like that. But even while they were doing stuff, between innings and off the field, George was always very serious about winning and having his team in the right mindset. So he won 2 championships in St. Paul. He managed there from 2003 up until 2020. And then after 2020, it was kind of it was a tough turn of fate. It's actually, George and the Cougars kind of were in a similar spot. The Saints got their affiliation with the Twins in AAA, and the Twins wanted to hire somebody within their organization. So George was no longer the manager of the Saints. The Cougars lost their minor league affiliation. So credit to, Dr. Bob Froelich, the owner of the Cougars, and general manager Curtis Haug. They got George Samus, who was, you can't get a more accomplished manager to start as an independent franchise. So, we definitely want to honor the history of the Cougars and their time in minor league baseball,
And we are going to come back on the air with the rest of that interview with Cougars play-by-play broadcaster Connor Klingon right after these messages.
And we will keep on going for a little bit because we got like another minute or two, Mike. But that's all right. That's my bad. I'll point the thumb at myself. I didn't really give you a heads up on that, so that's my bad.
No, that's fine.
It was really cool talking with Connor. We talked to him about for about 45 minutes, condensed it down somewhat. And he's got some great insights. And I was really, pleasantly surprised because he's got a great call for being a minor league baseball announcer, play-by-play guy. He's got a really good call, really nice and polished.
He's a phenomenal talent, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. We will have more for you right here on the Rise on AM 1410 WRMN. You're listening to, as I said, On the Rise, and we will be back with the remainder of that Connor Klingon Cougars interview.
America's Best Restaurants travels the country and features restaurants that you should visit each week. Recently, the cast and crew made their way to Renata's German Restaurant in Hanover Park. Renata serves old family recipes and delicious German-influenced food. Renata's also specializes in a wide variety of traditional German baked goods, too. So, if you've yet to visit Renata's, try America's Best Restaurants choice. Drop in soon for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Visit renatasgermanrestaurant.com.
Anderson Japanese Gardens, ranked the highest quality Japanese garden in North America and located right in the heart of Rockford. Their mission is to open minds to a different culture while offering a place of peace and tranquility where one can find healing, renewal, inspiration, and a re-energized soul. A premier destination for corporate functions, special events, weddings, and receptions. For directions, hours, and fees, visit andersongarden.org today.
Theriault Booth, a leading local law firm, is located on the beautiful Fox River in downtown St. Charles. Here's Ryan Theriault.
For better or worse, there are just times people need a lawyer. Whether you are involved in a work injury, in an automobile crash, selling a home, or even planning for your estate after your passing, we're here. We're local. We're part of the community.
For more information, visit them on the web at tbfirm.com or give them a call at 630-526-4242. It's the time of the year where storms and inclement weather can pop up unexpectedly. If you have a generator powered by a small engine, keep it running like a top. Don't do the tune-up yourself. Let Ames Small Engine Repair at 674 Laurel Street in Elgin handle your generator. Ames can do oil changes, spark plugs, and make all the necessary adjustments. From simple tune-ups to major repairs, Ames Small Engine can do it all. Don't forget, it's not too early to think about a lawnmower tune-up. Call 847-742-8750.
Here at WRMN Radio, we try to connect with the community and discuss important issues, like our current mental health crisis. Here's Lori Baker, President and CEO of AID.
I think most people, when they see young children thinking about suicide at the ages of 5 and 6 and 7, I mean, that's shocking to me that children even know that they want to harm themselves somehow. I know it's difficult. I definitely feel the pinch. We all feel the pinch at the gas pump, at the grocery store, right, in our rents, but I think most people could handle 27 cents a day to help kids and seniors and people experiencing homelessness.
Discussions like this take place on the first shift, weekday mornings from 6 to 10, right here on WRMN AM 1410 and WRMN 1410 Radio on Facebook. Oh no, I just hit that post and my car's got a dent.
Uh-oh, better get Mako.
Oh yeah? Where are they?
Mako is America's body shop. They're the world's largest provider of paint and collision services. They're located at 212 Western Avenue in Carpentersville, across from Spring Hill Mall. I've used them. Check out my car.
Wow, looking good.
Everything was so easy and affordable. Hummer and staff were super friendly and really knew their stuff.
I'm going to call them now.
Mention WRMN 1410 at the Carpentersville Mako and receive 10% off today.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-890-5957. 800-890-5957. That's 800-890-5957.
You're currently listening to On the Rise with Mike Napolitano and Derek Geyer on 1410 AM WRMN.
Welcome back into On the Rise, AM 1410 WRMN, and here's that second half of the interview with Connor Klingen.
He had to start from scratch. They didn't have any returning players or anything like that. And 2021 was a losing year, but the next 3 years, he's had the team in the playoffs every year, and of course, in year 4, a championship.
And if I'm not mistaken, Connor, correct me if I'm wrong. I forget where I heard this little factoid, but George Samus the manager of the Cougars, has over 1,000 career wins
He
as
does.
the manager.
Yeah, over 1,000 wins. And this year he got his 200th win with the Cougars.
Wow.
So he just keeps adding on the accolades every time. And, it's awesome to get to work with him and cover him because he's just masterful with the way that he managed the bullpen, the lineups, everything like that. It's really cool to get to watch day in, day out.
Now, after watching the post-game celebration and everything, I forgot the lovely lady that you were sharing the box with, and she went down on the field. Haley, was it?
It's Kaylee Kowalski. She's
Kaylee Kowalski.
Yep.
Thank you for correcting me on that, Connor. I appreciate it. Now, she was trying to get an interview with George, and George was basically, no, I don't want to do this because I want to celebrate with the players.
Yeah.
This is about them. This is about this moment and everything. I kind of felt bad for her, but at the same time, I understood.
Yeah.
And that just, to me, that aspect of things means that he's really in with the team and the guys, and it's all about the team chemistry.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
100%. And, he did eventually give Kaylee a few words, and I thought it was very classy of him as well to just give a shout out to Winnipeg and their fans for having as great of a year as they did. And they had a great crowd out there on Tuesday night. But yes, he's very much about the players. He never wants to make anything about himself. So, he racks up a lot of accolades, but he doesn't want to do a ton of interviews or anything like that. He does just want to make it about his team. And he tries to bring in a team that has a lot of veterans. They play together. At the beginning of this season, the Cougars had 15 players that were back from the 2023 team. We ended up for the championship game. I think we still had 11 guys. I got to double check, but I think it was 11 at the end of the season that were on the championship team that ended 2023 with the Cougars as well, which independent American Association baseball, that's kind of a rare thing to get that many guys. You do see a lot of teams that have 6, 7, 8 guys come back, but double digits is a lot. And I think that chemistry played a huge role in this postseason run.
Well, and talking about American Association baseball, the terms minor league baseball and double-edged sword tend to go hand in hand because if your team has any kind of success, let alone winning a championship, their team kind of gets looked at by these major league organizations and major league contracts get picked up. But of course, this is the goal of developmental baseball, but it's a celebratory notion. However, it seems like minor league teams having to turn on a dime and rebuild and sustain is really tough. It's a testament to the Cougars' long history of developing MLB stars and alumni. I have no doubt that this will be doable for them, but who from this 2024 team could you see becoming yet another Cougar alumni to be a mainstay in the MLB?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question, Mike. It's hard to, single anybody out because there's definitely a few guys that, will have that opportunity to get another look. We actually did have 2 guys this year that got picked up by major league organizations early in the season. One of them being Batavia native Alex Troop, who was our opening day starter. Yeah. He had 2 really good starts, and the Cubs picked him up, and he went to Double-A there. And then we had Javon Ward, who got picked up by the Toronto Blue Jays organization, one of our outfielders. So, that's the great thing. I'll give credit again to George Samus. He really wants to win ball games, but he also wants what's best for his players. So he's on the phones. He's making calls to scouts. He wants guys to get signed from the Cougars because, he knows ultimately the more guys that get signed out of Kane County and go to major league organizations, that's only going to bring more talent in. So
absolutely.
It's just, it's mutually beneficial. We want these guys to get signed. We want them to go back to major league organizations. But also it is nice when, for whatever reason, nobody signed Greg Malley after the year he had going 10-2 with under a 3 ERA. He stuck around for the playoffs and gave us 3 outstanding starts.
I wanted to jump off that point that you made a post after the championship about being a Batavia kid, growing up and watching the Cougars. What was it that drove you to become Cougars play-by-play announcer, and then some of your early baseball memories as well, I'm sure, were Cougars?
Yeah, no doubt. I grew up going to Cougars games all the time. I actually remember when I was a young kid, I went to a camp, one of the skills camps, and got to learn from Dontrell Willis when he was with the Cougars. And that was awesome seeing him do the leg kick and everything like that. And yeah, I mean, when you grow up in Batavia, I said this to people, actually Batavia has more going on now. They've kind of built up the downtown. But when I was a young kid, there were pretty much 2 things to do in Batavia. you're either going to Randall 16 or you're going to a Cougars game. So, I just always enjoyed going to games and I would kind of look up into that booth. I got into broadcasting in high school, and I would look at that booth and think, that'd be pretty cool to be able to broadcast here one day. And I previously worked with the Winston-Salem Dash and the White Sox organization. Unfortunately, when COVID hit, that position was gone really through no fault of my own, no fault of the Dash either, just, a pandemic. So I came back to, my hometown area, and it was really Joe who set the tables, set the wheels in motion, because it was 2021. He just needed somebody for a game or two. He just had a conflict come up, and he knew I was a local guy who had been in professional baseball. So he said, hey, we won't come out for a game. And it went really well. And then before the next season, they kind of went into having an official number 2 again. And, I was able to get that job, and it's been awesome ever since. I'm really blessed and lucky to get to work with the Cougars. It's a first-class organization all the way around.
Now, Connor, what would you make of Cornelius Randolph's performance throughout the season? Kind of leading you here because he was the Miles Wolf Cup MVP. Why don't you talk about Randolph a little bit? What were you seeing throughout the whole season?
Just consistency. And, the last couple of years, CC, we call him, is his nickname. He kind of had dealt with some injuries the last couple of years, but he's somebody he was a top 10 draft pick in Major League Baseball by the Phillies out of high school. And, he was in their minor league organization for a while, then got released, was with the White Sox for a little bit. And then in 2022, he was released by the White Sox, and he came right to Kane County. And, he didn't really know what to expect in, independent baseball or the American Association. But he was really quickly embraced by Cougars fans. He's somebody who takes a lot of time with the fans. He signs a lot of autographs. He's really just a down-to-earth, great representative of the organization. And, this year he was locked in. I mean, he ended the regular season on a 15-game hit streak. Just every single day you saw the work that he was putting in. And when he's fully healthy, just an outstanding player, makes great plays in the outfield. Kind of more of a gap-to-gap guy. He does, hit the occasional home run. He actually hit a couple of grand slams this year, but he was just coming through with base hits, stolen bases, playing defense really well. And then he got a little bit cold in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, but I thought, at some point he's going to break through. And it happened to be in the championship series. He has 6 hits, and there was no doubt he was going to be the MVP of that series when they won, the walk-off hit in game 1 as well.
Yep.
No one more deserving than Cornelius Randolph, and it's been so much fun to have him around the last 3 years.
Well, we kind of alluded to the fact that last year the Cougars fell short and they were eliminated in the first round by the Milwaukee Milkmen. Chicago Dogs beat Cleburne in that first round this year. And I think everyone was really hoping to see the Chicago Dogs against the Kane County Cougars, because Chicago beat Cleburne in that first round last year and just fell short of I don't really have a name for this yet. We talked about the White Sox, and I know Derek's a Cub fan, so there's the crosstown rivalry, but I've been kind of calling this the Chicagoland rivalry. But yeah, it's the first time that this has ever happened in the playoffs since the Dogs' inception in 2018 and the Cougars moving into the American Association in 2021. We finally got to see it happen, and I wanted to get your perspective on the atmosphere in each park during the series, as we were granted one in Impact Field in Rosemont and one at Northwestern Medicine Field in Geneva. It
was awesome. It was really cool to see both fan bases traveling to the other ballpark for the playoff games. We had some good representation there in game 1. Game 2, I'll admit it, the Dogs, they had more fans in our place than we did at theirs, because their owner bought 250 tickets, gave away free tickets.
Yeah.
That was a cool move, I have to admit, and they made a lot of noise. And, we've got a lot of respect for the Dogs, mutual respect there, 2 organizations that, they do compete a lot, being in the same division and everything, and competing sometimes for the fan support as well. But it's a lot of fun ultimately. And, I talked to Aaron Shellen, the voice of the Dogs there, and he sent me a very nice text after the Cougars won the championship as well. So, all the respect in the world for Aaron and, Jeff Isom, the manager of the Dogs as well, and some of their players, Jacob Teeter, Narciso Crook. They had an outstanding season. And those were 2 really tight games. It was a lot of fun. Aaron and I were talking that game 2 was almost like a high school sectional atmosphere, because it was just the 2 fan bases going back and forth with different chants. It would be let's go Cougars, let's go Dogs. So it was a blast. And, I hope that's a playoff matchup that happens for years to come.
Just a curious question, Connor. When Narciso Crook hit that home run in the top of the 8th inning, what were you feeling at that particular moment and calling it?
Yeah, I got to be honest with you, Derek. I mean, I hope not too many of our guys are listening, but I did not feel good at that point in that game too, because the Dogs had Joey Marciano on the mound. The Cougars had not scored a single run on Marciano the whole season. And I thought, you know what, they're going to stretch out Marciano as far as he goes, because this is their backs against the wall. Mm-hmm. And, it's one of those things where I had to see the Cougars do it. If they couldn't, they hadn't scored a run against them in the regular season. It doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. But what helped in a big way is Tyler Beardsley came out and pitched that top of the 9th inning, and he shut the Dogs down. And I think that's kind of that complementary baseball there, where the pitching kind of inspires confidence to the bats. After that deflating home run, Beardsley comes out and tosses a great inning. And then I think the offense felt confident that they could get something going there. That was an awesome bottom of the 9th. Simon Reed, the catcher, he came through with a clutch base hit. Harrison Smith pinch runs. Gally Cribbs Jr. laid down a great sacrifice bunt, and then Armand Upshaw with the clutch hit to win it.
Yeah, it was a fun game.
And they had 2 back-to-back walk-offs the Cougars did. Of course, it was that walk-off against the Dogs to win that series, and then the first game of the championship against Winnipeg. But I wanted to kind of go off on a quick tangent here, because we talked about Aaron Schellen, another mutual broadcasting friend of ours, Andres Tejeda. He works for the Clinton Lumber Kings, who are out in Iowa, and it was just a funny stat that up until the Cougars moved into the American Association, they were the affiliate of the Arizona Diamondbacks in the Midwest League in 2019. They made the first round of the playoffs only to be knocked out in 2 games by the Clinton Lumber Kings, who are now a collegiate summer baseball team, a prospect league. But when we were talking about Andres, and I had recently reached out to him because he was at that combined no-hitter at Wrigley Field for the Chicago Cubs. It was the first one of its kind in Wrigley Field since 1972. And that led me into my next point, which was we almost saw a combined no-hitter in Northwestern Medicine Field on Sunday in the championship game against the Winnipeg Goldeyes. But with a 1-0 lead, the deja vu from Saturday night kind of crept in. Did you feel the Cougars' confidence in your gut, or were you biting your nails again like the rest of us?
Oh, I was biting my nails for sure. I mean, I guess, I don't know if I could do it on the air, but, I had the butterflies there for sure. It was, that's the thing about this Winnipeg team. That was, actually, Mike, it's funny you brought up the 2005 White Sox. What I remember about that series with the Astros is that was probably the closest sweep I can ever remember. This sweep against Winnipeg was probably even closer. I mean, it could have easily gone the other way. I mean, the Goldeyes really battled. Their pitching was outstanding as well. But yeah, that near combined no-hitter was so impressive. I mean, Jack Fox, he hadn't started in the playoffs. His last start was 2 weeks ago, and he goes and tosses 7 no-hit innings. Just kind of a stroke of genius, really, by George Samus, trusting Jack to go out there and deliver after not pitching for a while. He had been really good in the second half of the season, though, and I think he carried that confidence. But yeah, that 9th inning, the Goldeyes get the hit, and you're starting to flash back to the night before when they tied it at 1 in the 9th inning. So credit to Beardsley, though, because, he just hung tough. He got that ground ball he needed, and he made the right play, too. There's a lot of times when a pitcher gets a ground ball like that, they might kind of make the panic throw to second, but he was right there in front of the plate, much easier play, and then Simon Reed made the really nice throw down to first as well. So just, one of the moments where the pitching and the defense came together at once, and they were able to hold on.
Connor, you and I spoke after that Sunday game, and we both agreed that Winnipeg would probably take at least one game at home. That wasn't the case. I had seen so many people online talking about how that was probably the best baseball game they had seen in a while. You talked about how close this sweep was. And of course, we talked about your Batavia connection. But other than the eventual celebration for Kane County and your roots, what do you think made that game so special in the moment?
Wow, that's tough. I think part of it was, Mike, that I said it on the broadcast, the pitching really carried the Cougars through the playoffs. But in that last game, it was actually, the pitching did really well, holding Winnipeg to 3 runs, but it was really the offense that won in that game. Every time Winnipeg had a response, when they tied it at 3, Cougars come right back in the next inning and score 2 runs. So I think that was just a testament to, okay, we haven't hit the ball very well in this series, but that lineup had confidence that they could carry what they did throughout the whole year when they were second in the league in runs, brought it into that moment. I mean, guys like Todd Lott stepping up, Alex McGarry, Gally Cribbs Jr., everybody in that lineup, Josh Allen. I mean, he was so clutch throughout the entire playoffs.
And he had a couple of hell of a defensive moments throughout that series too.
He did, although, Derek, I screwed one up because they had a big double play in I think it was actually that bottom of the 6th inning. It was Gally Cribbs Jr. that caught it. I saw Josh dive across the infield. I thought he had it in his glove, but it was Gally who was right behind him, caught it, and then applied the tag for a double play. But that was, one of the many great defensive plays on that run. Cornelius Randolph throwing out a runner at the plate. Yep. It was an awesome baseball game, and I think the crowd in Winnipeg really added to it as well. Over 6,000 fans there. I don't want to take anything away from Cougars fans. I did hear from some of the Winnipeg fans, hey, why do you guys not have many fans? That's kind of just unfortunately a thing with American minor league teams. When you get after Labor Day, it's football season. So, it's really football season for, when you're playing on Saturdays and Sundays, and that's just what happened. And we had a Friday playoff game. Obviously, high school football is huge around, Geneva, Batavia, St. Charles. So it's really tough to get fans in the playoffs because also usually you rely a lot on advanced groups and theme nights and fireworks nights. So it's much tougher for the playoffs, but credit to Winnipeg because they're really a first-class franchise. They treated us with so much hospitality, and also, for them to allow Kaylee on the field to do those post-game interviews, that was really awesome. They treated us really well and have all the respect for them, and congrats to them on a great season.
I always chalked it up to the fact that these games aren't on the normal schedule, and because of the fact that minor league baseball has that family destination aspect to it, it's not always just about the baseball. So the people who care about the baseball, maybe they're following the pro leagues and they aren't paying as much attention to their local teams. And the ones who do show up, but then, you don't get the families that you do because these games aren't televised, or not televised, but advertised ahead of time. But yeah, that's a good point that football would kind of, cut into that. And in Canada, us being hockey fans, of course, here too. Hockey season doesn't start quite yet, so they have something to fill that gap of time, and that's the American Association Wolf Cup playoffs.
Yeah, no, they haven't gotten into hockey season quite yet, so the Winnipeg fans were definitely fired up. But I will say, we had smaller crowds than we had in the regular season, where we led the league in attendance for a 4th straight year. But I will say the fans that showed up to these playoff games at Northwestern Medicine, they were locked in and they were making noise. So they were really the true diehards were out there, and we're just so grateful to have the great fan base that we do in Kane County.
Any of you in the Chicagoland area that aren't going to minor league, whether it's American Association, Frontier League, I don't care. If you're not going to their playoffs, you're missing out because, what are you going to sit around and wait for the Cubs and White Sox to make the playoffs? You might be waiting for a while. So, definitely get on over. As a White Sox fan, I have to thank you and the Cougars for giving me something to cheer about this baseball season.
This is true.
What is next?
True.
What is next for the Kane County Cougars and especially Connor Klingen?
Well, actually, I'll go ahead and give a little plug here. On Saturday afternoon, we've got tacos and tequila going on at Northwestern Medicine Field. So that's going to be an awesome event. We've got Lil Jon, Chingy, like some of those early 2000s guys. That should be a lot of fun. Great music, great food, great drinks. So feel free to get tickets to that. It's on Saturday. That should be really cool. I know actually some of our players were potentially thinking about going to that as well. So that's something to look forward to. But then other than that, the 2025 season, there'll be some great promotions coming. I'm sure you can go to kccougars.com and, get in contact about getting some tickets for 2025. Winning a championship never hurts for the ticket office either. But yeah, on my end, just, going into doing some college sports on the freelance side, doing some work with UIC, doing work at NIU, and then Notre Dame hockey as well. Excited to be a part of the coverage for them this season. So a lot of fun stuff coming up, but it's going to be hard to top this championship we just had.
Very cool, Connor. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm just at @cklingon14. And then everything else, like Instagram, I think it's just @cklingon. So those are kind of the two main places where you can find me. And I try to post about the Cougars, whatever else is going on. And I appreciate you guys having me on for sure. But this has been super exciting. I mean, it's been a whirlwind. We had a long bus ride back from Winnipeg, but it was a fun one.
That's awesome. But also, there was one other thing that the Cougars have going on. It's the Cougars Halloween Beer Fest.
Yeah.
Going on Saturday, October 19th, 6 to 10 p.m. But the biggest thing from all of that you said that I took away was that, the 2025 season. So we will be pleased to have you back on and talk more Cougars with us in 2025 for that season. There was one other thing that popped into my brain when I was listening to an episode of CHGO Blackhawks. Joe Brand was talking about something that you guys do on the broadcast, which is I think you pick a topic for an inning and then just talk about that throughout the entire inning. I don't know. Is there a name for that? Are you going to keep that going?
So it was the bottom of the sixth inning. So in the bottom of the sixth, Joe very graciously, gives up one of his half innings. We would do just a podcast. So we really like that bottom of the sixth. Unless there was a home run or a diving play or something crazy, we kind of just would put the play-by-play aside. And usually it was tangentially related to baseball or the theme night that was going on at the ballpark. We thought initially, hey, the fans might hate this. We're not really paying attention to the game, but we actually have gotten a lot of positive feedback on it. It's a long season. So the regular season in baseball, I think you have to have fun with it and do some different things. And, I love that idea from Joe. We had a great time with it. Some of the podcasts were better than others. Some were more planned than others, but it was a lot of fun. And I definitely will have a lot of memories of doing those bottom of the sixth innings with Joe. And actually on the 4th of July, we did a hot dog eating contest in that bottom of the sixth inning. So, and I got to admit, Joe ended up coming out on top there.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for coming to talk to us. This is the latest voice of the Kane County Cougars, Connor Klingon. Thanks again, Connor. You are listening to On the Rise on AM 1410 WRMN. And Connor, we will talk to you in 2025.
Great. Thanks so much, Mike and Derek. Appreciate it.
Have a great offseason.
So there you heard the conclusion of that great interview with Connor Klingon, the play-by-play broadcaster for the Kane County Cougars. A very talented, very smooth voice, yet exciting to listen to on those Cougars broadcasts, which makes him perfect for that championship caliber baseball with the Cougars. That really wraps up our Cougars talk for the whole year. We will come back in the spring with more Cougars information here on the Rise. And that means we will get to talk to Connor Klingon even more in that spring session of this show, I guess you could say. And I'm excited to get a chance to work with him again here on the Rise and talk more Cougars baseball. Until then, it'll be football and hockey season and a little bit of basketball too. So we are going to jump over into our Chicago Steel, Chicago Wolves, maybe do a little Rockford Ice Hogs talk. Hockey is on the horizon, folks, here on the Rise on AM 1410 WRMN.
A recent Gallup poll indicated that 38% of Americans are putting off healthcare because of financial concerns, the highest ever recorded. I'm Dr. Bob Martin, here to serve you every Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4. Millions of Americans are seeking health advice that will not cost an arm and a leg, so I offer health tips and advice absolutely free. Listen to my show, Sunday afternoons from 1 to 4 right here on WRMN, AM 1410 and 96.7 FM, the voice of the Valley and the home of Radio Shopping Show.
Come on out to the Country Donuts, that is, at Route 20 and Nestler Road. They're always open. Donuts are made daily using only the finest ingredients to ensure freshness. Their huge variety of donuts offers something to please everyone. Country Donuts doesn't stop at offering you the best donuts. Enjoy a delicious breakfast sandwich or stop in for lunch and try a bowl of their famous chili. Need a larger or special donut order for your office? Call 847-488-1900.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 9 o'clock.
Governor Burgum spoke this week with the Salem radio. An Israeli airstrike on a Beirut suburb yesterday has claimed the life of a leading Hezbollah commander. The BBC's Peter Becheger files this report assessing the region's ongoing tensions.
Hezbollah does a substantive response.
Drone caused a fire which footage on social media shows a series of blasts and a ball of smoke rising into the night sky.
Trouble brewing for coffee drinkers, at least
Welcome back into AM 1410 WRMN. I'm your host, Derek Geyer, alongside Mike Napolitano. At the bottom of the hour, our fantasy sports guru, Nick Johnston, will be joining us. And we are also going to be pulling double duty today. We will be hosting The Truth About Chicago Sports, alongside with probably a phone call from Marcus Mack.
Yeah, we will be taking over Marcus's show for the day, but happy to have him join for a little bit, and we'll get a chance to talk pro side of sports. But continuing on with our minor league segments, we have some hockey news to talk about. The Chicago Steel, as you remember from last week, we have a little bit of recap of how those games went because of the fact that we pre-recorded on Friday morning. It's Friday the 13th. Ooh, spooky. We didn't get a chance to see how that result was on Friday night for the Steel. And that was a 5-3 loss to the Dubuque Fighting Saints. In the first period, the Saints scored 2 minutes in, and the Steel were able to eventually tie the game at 1. But going into the second period, 2 goals from the Saints makes it a 3-1 game. In the third, the Steel fight back once again to tie things at 3, but a 5-3 Saints final as they score 2 goals late to get the win. Jack Parsons made 27 saves for this Steel team. Merrimack commit Luke Golker scored his first goal of the preseason to start the scoring for the Steel. He skated in 2 games for the Steel in 2023-24 and added 1 assist. Another Merrimack commit, Ben Yurchuk, and Arizona State commit Ryder Betzold each had an assist. Yurchuk had 21 assists in 62 games for the Steel last season. That was ranked 5th amongst Steel skaters. Betzold appeared in 2 games last season for the Steel and scored 1 goal and 1 assist. Northeastern commit Ben Wilmot recorded his first score of the preseason. In his rookie season last year, Wilmot scored 9 points. That's 5 goals and 4 assists in those 49 games that he played. And then just a couple of notes to make Derek feel old again. We got to recap who are the sons of former NHLers on these developmental teams. First of all, you have Joshua Niedermeyer.
Oh, jeez.
If that name sounds familiar, he is the son of former Stanley Cup champion and Canadian Olympian Scott Niedermeyer, who is 51 years old now. Just had to throw that in there a little bit.
Bite me, Mike.
So Joshua is one of 4 sons for Niedermeyer. That's Logan, Luke, and Jackson. And then on Chicago, we talked about him last week, but I forgot to mention, we talked about him being a Hinsdale native here in Chicago. The reason why he is local is because his dad played locally. Nick LaPointe, his father was Martin LaPointe, who played for the Detroit Red Wings, Boston Bruins, Ottawa Senators, and then in 2005 to 2008, the Chicago Blackhawks. That's his dad.
Detroit sucks!
Moving into that next night, Saturday the 14th, that was a home game at Fox Valley Ice Arena. Again, that was a 6-4 loss for the Steel to the Dubuque Fighting Saints. The first period, Dubuque got off to another hefty lead, a 3-0 first period. Yikes. And then in the second period, they added to that, making it 4-0 before the Steel could get the first one on the board. And then a 6-1 scoreline by the end of the second. So not a good hole to be dug into if you were the Steel. The third period, they scored 3 goals late in the third to bring this game back to a 6-4 final, but it wasn't enough for this Steel team. Ben Wilmot added another goal and had 1 assist in this one. Notre Dame commit Owen Tylick registered 2 assists. So in his 2 exhibition games, he has 2 goals and 2 assists. So that's 2 points per game. That's a pretty good stat line right there. Nebraska Omaha commit Luca Cloutier made 26 saves in this defeat. And Boston College commit Teddy Mutrin scored the first Steel goal of the game and his 3rd of the preseason. Mutrin finished exhibition play with 3 goals, 2 assists, and a +3 rating, which is huge. He looks like he's already in midseason form for this Steel team. Last but not least, Michigan commit Adam Valentini scored his first goal of the preseason.
Hey, Mike, just out of curiosity, for those of the listeners that are not familiar with hockey, what would be a +3 rating? What transpires with that?
So in this league, it's a little bit different than most. You get like ratings because it's a developmental league. It's not quite meaning he was a +3 on the ice. That might be. I'm not sure here. That's actually something I would have to dive deeper into, but I believe you get ratings so that scouts can look at you differently. Typically in hockey stats, though, if you do see a +3, that goes for plus or minus stats. And now what is a plus or minus stat? Plus means that you were out there on the ice for more goals scored for your team than against your team. So even if you didn't register an assist or have the goal yourself, if you were out there and you contributed to the play, you get a plus. And if you were out there for a goal against, you get a minus. So at the end of the year, it's just another way for another way to evaluate a hockey player based on his impact on the ice, whether he is giving up more goals defensively and a little bit of a liability out there on the ice, or if he helps your team put more in the back of the net. And those stats can get skewed depending on if you're on those special teams, whether it's power play or penalty kill. But at the end of the day, you look at Connor Bedard's stats last year, I think he was a -47. And I don't think that really speaks to how good of a player Connor Bedard can be. He's still young and he's still a rookie, right, and he's still developing. However, I don't think he is that much of a liability. I think that was just a case of he had a really struggling Blackhawks team around him in that sense. So
I would say that was a pretty good assessment with that, considering that Connor Bedard did actually win the Calder Cup.
Yeah, Calder Trophy. Yeah,
Calder Trophy. I'm sorry.
No, I get that confused too with the AHL.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Connor Bedard, like we said, less of a liability out there. So take that plus-minus stat with a grain of salt. Don't take it to heart. There's a lot more in-depth stats that I think can be looked at, and I won't bore you with Corsi or Fenwick or all those really deep analytical stats just yet, but as we go on in this show, maybe I'll bring that up, especially for regular season Steel, which is just around the corner. But before that, we had another Steel game that wrapped up yesterday. That was a 2 p.m. game against the Des Moines Buccaneers, and that was the USHL Fall Classic, Dick's Sporting Goods USHL Fall Classic. That was held at Cranberry Township in the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex. Now, we just had a whole interview with Connor Klingon. We mentioned Joe Brand. Joe Brand is out there at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex to watch the Pittsburgh Penguins. That is their practice facility. So it was kind of cool for the Steel to get a chance to play out there. And they actually got the victory in this game. It was a 5-2 win for this Steel team. They scored 2 in the first, 2 in the second, and 1 in the third, only giving up 2 to Des Moines in the second period. Shots on goal 42-29, though, in favor of this Des Moines Buccaneers team. So they definitely outshot the Steel, but the Steel came up with a great victory in this one. We didn't get a real chance to look up too many of the in-depth stats in this one, as that just wrapped up yesterday. And, we just wanted to report that they got the win. Today, though, as we are on the air, because we will be covering Marcus's show, an 11 a.m. start time for this Steel team, again at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex. This one will be against the Waterloo Blackhawks. So a couple of USHL Fall Classics to start the season for this Steel team. But that will be, as I mentioned, at 11 a.m. So we can actually probably even give you some live updates if we get them, but we'll be already jumping over into the pro sports side of things. That leads us into opening weekend. Sorry, did you have something you wanted to throw in there?
Oh, no, I was just going to ask about next weekend and the opening slate. So
perfect.
Since you're already into it, go for it.
That's where I was going next. Of course, you probably had this question as you were going to ask about it, and a bunch of the listeners do. When can you finally see regular season home games for this Chicago Steel team? That would be a Friday, September 27th. So next weekend at 7:05 p.m. That will be a game versus the Muskegon Lumberjacks, who they got a chance to see in the preseason. Didn't really go the way the Steel wanted, but this one will count. There will be a pregame tailgate which includes a bunch of face painting for the kids, inflatable slides, so it's a very family-friendly atmosphere. There's also probably food and drinks for the entire family as well. There will also be a magnet schedule giveaway presented by TechWorks. And then rolling with that opening weekend, Saturday, September 28th, a 6:05 p.m. start versus the Youngstown Phantoms. There will be a pregame tailgate for that one as well, and a postgame skate with the Steel.
And this is the thing that I really enjoy about the minor leagues and covering it and going to, the games and the events, is the fact that they actually have fan interaction with the players. I mean, for baseball, you could get out there with your kids. They run around the bases. In this case, it's a post-game skate with the Steel. So the up-and-comers that are hopefully going to be in the NHL. I know not everyone makes it there, but, it's still a nice little treat to see your 6, 10, whatever-year-olds skating around with pros.
Yeah, and it's very nice that the Steel opened up that opportunity for the fans. Another opportunity that they have for the fans is the Steel Pass. I mentioned it last week, but what it is you can choose one Steel game per month. That's 7 games in total, and as a reward, you'll receive a ticket of your choice for any Chicago Blackhawks preseason home game while supplies last. The Blackhawks have some preseason home games on the horizon, so jump on this offer quickly, folks. That's 7 Steel games and 1 Blackhawks preseason game, all for just $95. You can buy that right through the Steel website or call 855-51-STEEL. So a little bit of free advertising for them, but I thought it was too good of a ticket opportunity to pass up, and I wanted to inform the fans about that one. Let's jump into something that we really haven't given a whole lot of time here, Derek. We've talked Ice Hogs, and we're going to get a chance to talk Blackhawks and Ice Hogs in Marcus's show, actually, today. So if you're sticking around for On the Rise just for the Ice Hogs talk, we're going to be pairing it with the Blackhawks talk on the pro side of things with the truth about Chicago sports. But we have the Wolves, Derek.
Yes, but please stick around. Stick around for all the upcoming pro sports talk with Marcus Mack and the truth about Chicago sports.
Yeah, it's a Saturday morning. If you're up and listening to us already, you've got a great start to the day. Why not just keep things rolling and continue? And, typically it would be Marcus doing a great job here on the mic. He's going to be calling in. So Derek and I will be live in studio to kind of steer the rest of the boat and get through the 2 hours. And I say get through, but it's really a fun time. We're going to bring you everything you need to know about pro Chicago sports, as we typically do with semi-pro Chicago sports.
And you had mentioned the Wolves. So hold on a second.
I'm surprised the pane of glass didn't just break right there after that one. But yeah, you put in a good bid for. Can you skate? Can you go out on the ice and do the famous skates opening at center ice and then shoot the fireworks out of your paws?
Hell to the no! I can skate, and if you really can call it skating, that's about it. I do my best not to fall down, and I can only imagine with the skates mascot. Wearing the skates mascot, for the Wolves, how difficult that must be. So whoever's doing that is one hell of an athlete already and one hell of a skater, much better than I am. So there's that.
I don't want to discredit his talent or any kind of I don't want to throw any shade, but there was one Wolves game, I know, might not have been last year, might have been 2 years ago, that skates did not quite make it to center ice to shoot off the fireworks on I think it was like a Wednesday day game, so it wasn't a whole big crowd watching. Maybe it was a day camp day though, so you had a bunch of students.
Was it Skates trying to do his impersonation of a Zamboni?
I think so, and I think he swept the ice. I think he swept the ice with his hockey pants. But yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen again this year. Now, we mentioned was it last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago when we did our Wolves talk?
I don't know.
That there really aren't any preseason games for the Chicago Wolves, which I think in previous years there had been. I have not seen, trust me folks, I have scoured the internet. I have not found any information on any preseason games. That may be, in fact, because of the rejoining the partnership with the Carolina Hurricanes. What's cool is that, and I think I mentioned this on first show, the ECHL is expanding back into Illinois, and this fall we are going to get a chance to see the Bloomington Bison take the ice. That is an ECHL team. So if you're not familiar, NHL, that's the top league. AHL, that is basically, is it AAA? AAA is the highest baseball?
Yes.
And then, so ECHL would be like your AA level. I always forget if it goes A, AA, AAA. I always get that backwards.
Reverse it.
Yeah, AAA, AA. So ECHL is your AA level. The Bloomington Bison will be the feeder team, the affiliate of the Chicago Wolves. They may share because there aren't as many ECHL teams, and in fact, there aren't even a full 32 AHL teams. So some NHL teams do share as well. However, the Wolves have announced that their partnership with the Hurricanes has been reinstated. For a year, the Wolves were independent. Didn't quite go the way everybody was planning it to, both on the Carolina side of things and the Chicago side of things. So we are going to have a really nice track of Bloomington to Chicago to Raleigh. And we're going to get to see the development of a lot of very cool players this year. In fact, I just got a call from the Bloomington Bison last week. Actually, no, earlier this week. It was more so about ticket offers, but there may be a chance that I get to go see the home opener for the Bison, which is their first game. They're starting at home, so that would be great for us to be able to cover here on The Rise.
Yeah, you definitely seem like you have a lot of hookups and people in places probably popping out of garbage cans and everything. Hey, Mike.
That's the Italian.
Oh, that's the Italian?
That's the Italian. That's what that is.
Hey, forget about it.
I know a guy. I got a guy. But
just don't call it sauce.
Exactly. It's gravy. It's gravy.
Whatever.
Well, it depends. But as we mentioned, if you got a guy, head on over to the home opener for the Chicago Wolves. This is their 31st season in action over in Rosemont. The home opener at Allstate Arena, and the start of the season will be on Saturday, October 12th. Funny enough, that is the same night that the Bloomington Bison starts. So if you're not in the Bloomington Normal area, that's quite the hike. It's even going to be the hike for me if I'm down there. Don't have any fears. You will be able to see the AHL rather than the ECHL right here in Rosemont as the Wolves take on the Milwaukee Admirals, the Nashville affiliate. I believe they still have that contract intact. That will be the Adopt a Dog night. And then as we said, the Hurricanes and the Wolves have reunited. It's a 3-year agreement, and we are excited for that.
And that is one of the big rivalries for the Wolves. If there are any fans out there of the Wolves, you already know that it's the Milwaukee Admirals and the Ice Hogs, the Rockford Ice Hogs.
Yeah, the Ice Hogs, I believe for a while they were calling it the Illinois Lottery rivalry. I'm not sure if that sponsorship's still intact. Whether or not the sponsorship is still intact for the Milwaukee Admirals Chicago Wolves rivalry, it's called the Amtrak rivalry. I'm not sure if that sponsorship's there either, but the idea of it, that all you have to do is take the Amtrak back and forth to these two cities, that still applies. So get on the train, go see these games, but this one will be at home. Speaking of where you can watch these games, AHL TV is now going to be on Flow Hockey. That is the same company as Flow Baseball. They cover a lot of, I believe, Dogs and Cougars and the American Association. So if you're familiar with any of that around here, Boomers as well, I believe, are on Flow Baseball.
I believe so, but at first I thought you were talking about insurance.
Yeah, Flo from Progressive. The only other Wolves news that we have for you, Wendell Young was promoted to Chicago Wolves vice chairman and governor. He's 60 years old, and if you know anything about the Chicago Wolves, you know the name Wendell Young. Young has been a member of the Wolves organization in virtually every capacity. He was a player, coach, and an executive since the team's inaugural season in 1994. He served as general manager for the past 15 seasons. And I have a quote here from Young. He said, "I'm elated about the confidence that Don Levin has in me. I've been here since day one, the full 30 seasons of the Chicago Wolves, and being a part of the Chicago Wolves family means something. We say in our core covenant that it's family first here, and it's being shown every day by Don Levin." An outstanding quote there. And then I believe it was Levin who went on to say, quote, "Wendell has been here since the beginning, and he knows what we want out of our team. He will continue to help produce the best team on the ice and maintain the Wolves' commitment to winning and championships."
It's kind of hard to believe that it's already been 30 years.
Right? Yeah, this will be the 31st season.
To bring it to some sort of perspective, I remember going to those first games that the Wolves were at Rosemont, or now... what is it? Allstate. But
still Rosemont, yeah. Oh, well, you mean the Rosemont Center, right? Or
Rosemont Arena.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe it was the Rosemont Arena, but now you can't lead a horse to water and make him drink. So to me, it's always going to be Rosemont. I always call it Rosemont. Even though it's what is that place?
It's still the Sears Tower, by the way.
Oh, right. Yeah, absolutely.
It's still the Sears Tower.
And to put this into perspective. And I know you did this inadvertently, or not really at all, but I graduated back in 94. I graduated high school in 1994. I mean, holy shiatsu. That's a long time ago.
Yes. Well, somebody who is not quite there, didn't graduate in 94, Cam Abbott. He's only 40 years old. He was named the head coach for the Chicago Wolves. He will be the 14th head coach in franchise history. He served as the coach of Rögle BK of the Swedish Hockey League, that's the SHL, from 2017 to 2023. He was named the 2021-2022 SHL Coach of the Year, after Rögle BK topped the SHL regular season standings and captured the Champions Hockey League, the CHL, for the first time. Prior to coaching Rögle BK, Abbott served as the head coach of the Vaxjo Lakers under-20 team from about 2016 to 2017. There, Abbott recorded 166 points, 74 goals, and 92 assists in 276 SHL Elitserien games with Rögle BK and UEFA HF from 2008 to 2015. He also tallied 65 points. That's 35 goals and 30 assists in 42 games with Frisk Aker, that's the Norwegian League, in 2007-2008. And that was also 70 games, 35 goals, 35 assists. So he has definitely had the tenure as a player as well as a coach. So excited to see him behind the bench for the Wolves this year. All right, well, we have more news for you here on the Rise. Coming up in our next segment, we have our fantasy football segment. Derek will be leading this one alongside our guest in the studio today, Nick Johnston. I'll be chiming in a little bit here.
Can't wait for you to chime in, Mike.
Yeah.
That's not a problem.
I don't play too much fantasy, so I'll learn from the experts on this one.
Sure.
But we have that and more for you right here on AM 1410 WRMN. You are listening to On the Rise.
And don't forget, coming up at the top of the hour, it will be the truth about Chicago sports on 1410 AM WRMN.
The Distance Social, your spot for great craft cocktails with meaningful conversation. Whether you're out entertaining a group or out for a memorable nightcap, The Distance Social is your spot for starting or ending the perfect evening. Located at 314 North River Street in beautiful East Dundee, Illinois. Go the distance and find your social at The Distance Social.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 800-699-9043.
Looking to get your fingers on some delicious grub? Look no further than Sticky Fingers in Carpentersville. Family owned and operated, Sticky Fingers specializes in chicken, fish, and shrimp, which you can choose to have dusted with flavor or doused in the sauce of your choice. Sticky Fingers strives to provide flavorful food with fresh, locally sourced ingredients. Sticky Fingers personally invites you to stop by and try one of their scrumptious dishes today.
For exceptional home-cooked meals, visit the longest family-owned restaurant in Elgin. Paul's Family Restaurant at Lawrence and McLean takes pride in their fresh daily specials like steaks, fish, pasta, soups, and more. Paul's fresh buttermilk pancakes and breakfast skillets are phenomenal. As you walk in, you can't help but notice owner Elaine's wonderful eye for detail. The toughest decision you'll have to make is what size leftover box to take home. Call 847-695-8687.
How many times have you heard about or driven past the Volo Auto Museum and still haven't checked it out? They have over 200,000 square feet of heated showrooms filled with countless collections of the most amazing mechanical marvels in the world. From incredible collector cars, movie cars, trains, boats, and planes, to a Disney gallery, dinosaurs, vintage arcades, kiddie rides, and a medieval torture exhibit, plus the Titanic Museum. They're open every day from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Visit volofun.com.
For local information and fun times in the mornings, listen to Marky B and Larry Jones on the first shift.
Maybe we need to get a radio intern in to help you.
Maybe so.
Somebody that you won't have to pay and you can treat them tough.
I can haze them.
You can't haze. You'll get fired. Remember that guy from Northwestern?
Yeah.
Gone. Did he really do it? You don't have to really do it. If somebody says you did,
yeah,
good enough. Maybe I'm going to accuse you of hazing me. I don't have to prove it.
It's the first shift, weekdays from 6 to 10 a.m. right here on WRMN.
Keep informed with everything that's going on with the Radio Shopping Show by joining our VIP text club today. All you have to do is text the message WRMN 1410 to the number 94253 and you're in. You'll receive timely information about Shopping Show specials instantaneously as they happen. Message and data rates may apply. The voice of the Valley and the home of the Radio Shopping Show, we are WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM.
This is On the Rise with Mike Napolitano and Derek Geyer on 1410 AM WRMN.
Hello and welcome back to On the Rise with Mike Napolitano. I am Derek Geyer, and in studio right now is our guest host, Nick Johnston. Go ahead, Matt. Thank you. And
Fantasy Guru, just ask him, Nick Johnston.
Fantasy Guru, I got the hardware to prove it right here. A little bit of bling bling, a little bit of glamour.
That Super Bowl ring, a World Series ring.
I think it's a little harder to acquire one of these than one of those championships, obviously. Because you gotta be a leader of men. You gotta get a bunch of guys from a bunch of different teams, get them all on the same page, and then all for the same glory. Exactly, being your fantasy championship winner. That's the whole point of it.
Already talking shiatsu. I love it. I love it. Next game up on the docket would be the 1-0 Chargers versus the 0-1 Panthers.
Okay, I'll make this one a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. Panthers, you're not touching anybody. It's as simple as that. I mean, Bryce Young was running for his life the entire time. I feel bad for the kid. I feel bad for Bryce Young. He went to a place where there's really just no hope.
Welcome in, Nick. How the hell are you doing this fine Saturday morning?
Pretty good. Making me sound pretty good with my Bryce Young take on there, so that's pretty solid.
Yeah, I heard that. I'm like, oh, I remember this, considering that Bryce Young will be benched.
Yeah. Andy Dalton on there. I still doesn't make me any much better about any Panthers players on the week, but could be a little bit better just for the overall organization.
Gotcha.
But no, it's not.
So, what do we got? What have you got for our listening audience today, Nick?
Gotcha. I'll play a little bit of doctor. We'll talk a little injury report. I can go take away from Thursday night, and then of course we can get into my top 10 for at least every single position. So maybe we'll start and sit action right there.
All right, give me the news.
Gotcha. So across the board, like I said, let me put my doctor's cap on, my scrubs. A.J. Brown going to be out for the week, so Devonta Smith is in your lineup, no doubt. A plethora of LA Rams and San Francisco 49ers. So between CMC, obviously Jordan Mason is in there. Deebo Samuel is going to be out. So you're going to lean towards Brandon Ayuk and even Jawan Jennings in a stretch or a pinch right there, considering also George Kittle is going to be doubtful this week. So
okay, those are all the guys that are out.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify because I'm a little slow.
Yeah, a little bit. Again, that's unfortunate when all these injuries happen so early in the season. This is kind of insane, the amount of names that I have right here.
You mentioned Christian McCaffrey. I know that he was out week 1 as well. Is he going to be back anytime soon?
Currently on the IR, a minimum of 4 weeks going to be out.
Ouch.
So Jordan Mason is your guy. He was the pickup of the week probably last week for you.
Yeah, and CMC was the cover boy for Madden, so
that Madden curse.
There's that thing.
I think it was that. The 49ers, they've been talking about that. They should be under investigation, honestly. They did not talk about this injury at all. I mentioned this last week about that show, the receivers. They went ahead and showed me that, no NFL team is truthful with their injury report. No. They don't tell the league anything. So it goes to show you again, something like that can bite you towards the middle of the season, or the beginning of the season. Actually,
it's like the CIA and top secret stuff. Every week. No, can't talk about that. We don't want to reveal anything.
Closed doors for sure. Getting through more games, like I said, Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp on the wide receiver side of things for the Rams out. So you might be looking at Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson. Those are going to be the options there for the pass catching receivers. On the running back side of things, Joe Mixon doubtful, most likely will not play in this game. Also, Dameon Pierce, the backup running back this is the Houston Texans I'm talking about right now. Yep. So you might be looking at Cam Akers to be a starter out of that position right there. Not jumping at the bit to play Cam Akers, but again, if you need a pinch with all these injuries, this is going to be the name that you go ahead and snag. Kenneth Walker for the Seattle Seahawks, looking like he's going to be banged up, also listed as doubtful. So Zach Charbonnet, the sophomore running back for them, they will go ahead and bounce right back into that lineup. Not expecting crazy running numbers or rushing yards from him, but he does get the receptions. He does get the touchdowns, so that'll be the upside there. Continuing away through, like I said, Raheem Mostert doubtful, so Devon Achane needs to be in your lineup. He might be a league winner, honestly, in this so far. Jordan Addison out as well, and then Jordan Love, the QB for the Green Bay Packers, questionable.
Sucks.
Game time decision could be honestly a big factor for a lot of things. They are playing the I can't remember. The Titans are playing, or I believe they're playing the Titans.
Yeah.
Okay. It's playing the Titans this week. Could be tough right there for sure. Overall,
I got a question, Nick.
Yeah, sure.
Because this is at top of mind. You got the 0-2 Ravens going to the 0-2 Cowboys. What's your thoughts?
I was already kind of thinking, is it crazy to think a must-win already in Week 3, especially for the Ravens right now?
For the Ravens and or the Cowboys.
Yeah, I believe they're 1-1 right now, but yeah, the Ravens 0-2. It's really hard to sit here and say that John Harbaugh is going to go 0-3. In my mind, for a lot of the reasons, I have Lamar Jackson actually ranked as number 2 this week, just for that mentality, just the idea that they're locked in, they can't go 0-3, and they've been looking pretty good overall. So the rushing upside is always there for Lamar. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and you're juxtapose that. So the Ravens are 0-2, the Cowboys are 1-1. My bad on that.
Oh, you're good.
So please continue.
Oh, for sure.
But definitely a must-win for the Ravens because
without a doubt.
You talk about how dominant of a team they typically are, and their playoff aspirations going into this year are the same, if not higher, than last year's. And to start off 0-2, I believe the stat is 11% of the teams.
I saw 5%.
Oh, 5% is even worse.
5% of teams that started off 0-2
don't make the playoffs. Yeah, so the Ravens need to turn things around quickly. I mean, of course, that's just a stat, and of course there are
outliers.
The 5% are the exceptions to that mean. But when you look at the Ravens as a team within the last couple of years, especially going into this year, this team should be a playoff team, should be immediately one of those that you go, okay, that's an exception to that stat. But the job still has to get done, and if the job doesn't get done, they're part of that stat.
Yeah, especially tough in that division itself. 0-2 are both the Ravens and the Bengals are fighting up, or they're trying to fight and punch back up in the contention.
That's surprising.
And the Steelers could be 3-0 after this week. They're playing the Chargers at home. It's going to be a tough one for Justin Herbert, who was also questionable. He's going to play, but again, just a little banged up. So don't be surprised if him and Quentin Johnston don't get the same connection as last week.
The Steelers with who as quarterback?
Steelers with Justin Fields doing just enough to not get there. I'm not. He's not doing. In my mind, he's not doing anything spectacular. But being the manager, the game manager that they needed to be, if anyone was going to figure him out, it would be Mike Tomlin. So that makes a ton of sense right there.
Absolutely.
I can go ahead and bounce backward a little bit before we get into preview. I can talk Thursday night. Is that cool?
Sure. Go for it.
Just a couple takeaways that I wanted to point out. Pats players, Patriots players. You're not touching those. There's no need. So sorry, Demario Douglas. He looked good. Ramondre Stevenson might be the only viable option, but having 6 carries, and a fumble didn't help you. In some leagues, he was negative 0.7 points. So not a good start on the week.
That's not good.
No, doesn't help. But on the Jets side of things, it was a good game from Aaron Rodgers. Garrett Wilson, that's a little bit of what do you do right there? I, as myself, as a Garrett Wilson fantasy football owner right there, I took him in the first round a couple leagues. I want that connection to get a little bit more, but from what he said, from what Aaron Rodgers said, teams have been, their first goal is take away Garrett Wilson and then go from there. See if, Tyler Conklin can go ahead and beat them. See if Mike Williams is consistent enough to beat them. I think eventually down the line, it could potentially have that, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers connection that it was back in the day.
Yeah.
Just need a little bit more practice. I think that's going to be the key. So I think they're just off by a minute. Garrett Wilson owners, just hold on. You're going to be fine. And then Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen is the backup running back that everyone, again, highly talked about throughout the week. I don't think he's going to be stealing Breece Hall's spot. I don't think he's even going to be going 50-50. I see this as they played 3 games in 11 days. They were on a Bishop Sycamore type schedule, the Jets were. Ooh. So give Breece Hall a little bit of a break. That helps out a little bit there, I would think, for sure. But he's not going to be in there. He's not going to steal Breece Hall's job anytime soon. So gives him a little bit of a break. So it might cap Breece Hall in a certain sense that you might not get the Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry humongous games of as of last year or the year before, something like that. But it will help. I think it was just a little bit of a break, an easier way for Breece Hall to get into things. So again, don't panic. Don't panic if you're a Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson owner is what I'm basically saying.
Oh, I thought like a little sound effect would be good.
Oh, okay. No, it scared me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So Thursday takeaways, that's that. Do you want to go ahead and dive into Sunday and Monday?
Yeah, sure. Or we could do it along the lines of who are your top quarterback picks, top running back picks.
Exactly.
We'll go that route.
Gotcha. So I got my top 10 for each position right now. Okay. Go ahead and breeze through that as well. So quarterback, it's not really too surprising. I have Josh Allen at number 1. He's on a roll. They're playing the Jags. They're struggling. Ton of rushing upside every single week. Despite last week, only had 2 attempts for 2 yards and a fumble. I think, again, different game script. I think Josh Allen will be QB1 on the week. Lamar Jackson, I have something similar, rushing upside, but just locked in. It needs to get a win. So they will be flying. He will looking for Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. Those will be the targets. Joe Burrow, same thing. Needs a win. on Monday night. They're playing Washington, who honestly, they could be the worst cornerbacks, could be the worst secondary in the league. So between him and Jamar Chase, who, again, spoiler, he's my number one wide receiver on the week, due for a humongous breakout of a game, and I think that's going to be right there again on Monday night. Kyler Murray at number 4. He coming off a great week last week, and then this is the highest total on the week between the Detroit Lions and the Arizona Cardinals, 52.5, if I'm not mistaken. So they're expecting a lot of points. I can see that. Yeah, expecting a lot of points. Could be coming from that rookie wide receiver in Marvin Harrison Jr., and of course everybody else in company there. But I got Kyler at 4. Number 5, can't have a top 5 without Patrick Mahomes. I know he's struggling, but you need
Patrick
to have
Mahomes.
Exactly. That's literally what I have in my notes.
Yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes.
It's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Even if he is struggling, it does not matter. He's in there. He's going to play. You're going to throw him in your lineup no matter what. Number 6, I have C.J. Stroud. Could be a tough matchup in Minnesota, but again, there's too many options for him to fail in my mind. Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, all looking like viable options on the week. And then, like I said, not a lot of defense right there. With Joe Mixon listed as doubtful, could be passing a little bit more, but that just seeing how Cam Akers works into there as well. Jalen Hurts at number 7. His number 1 option is out, but doesn't seem to matter. Devonta Smith is a perfectly just right back in there, no problem. And again, the rushing upside, but the defense in the New Orleans Saints, be a little cautious right there. They're tough. I have Baker Mayfield at 8. Again, just off to a hot start. I wouldn't be surprised if he does get a couple of passes early on, just because it's the Denver Broncos. They've been struggling on the offensive side of things. Could be in, but not for too long. Don't be surprised if he just gets a couple of touchdowns and then maybe hands it off to Rashard White and Bucky Irvin the rest of the game.
Sure.
Jared Goff at number 9, and then to round out the top 10, I have Jaden Daniels. In my mind, could be a tough rookie matchup on Monday Night Football. The bright lights could get in there. Like I said, the Bengals are going to be huffing and puffing for a win for sure.
And that's your top 10?
That's my top 10 for the week, like I said.
Oh, I'm not liking the way that sounds.
Why is that?
There's a Mr. Williams that seems to be missing from the top 10, but I digress.
Caleb, yes, that's been a little struggle for me.
Little bit.
Little struggle. I mean, for him for sure. I can't confidently put him up there until he has a game over 200 yards, until he has a touchdown.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, 2 weeks, no touchdown passes. Yeah. How can you justify that?
It's really just the Bears' offense as a whole for me is just there's no identity.
No.
They don't have a run game just yet. They signed Swift thinking he was going to be the man. And he's got off to a slow start, can't get anything going. In my mind, this week against the Colts, they need to pound the rock. They need to run, and they need to run some more. So it's unrealistic, but Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, and DeAndre Swift need 60 touches between the 3 of them.
And that will eloquently lead into the running backs.
Yes.
Who do you got top 10?
Top 10. Again, a lot of names you'll see before. Bijan Robinson, he had an amazing week last week against Atlanta on Monday night, so you put him right in. Jordan Mason, now RB1 for the San Francisco 49ers. He's just one of the few healthy guys in this game.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
He should be in your lineup. He should be up there, and I think he's going to get a ton of work in this game. Alvin Kamara, boy, oh boy. Thank God I had him on my squads. Loved him. I had a 44 or 46-point game, depending on your scoring. Could have had 5 touchdowns, but Derek Carr was so selfish and ran it in for himself. So
bastard!
Just had a humongous game. And honestly, the Philadelphia defense, not what it used to be. So it's very viable. And again, with the pass catching, if you're in a PPR, a points per reception league, that's going to be the route to go. I have Jahmyr Gibbs at 4, playing against Arizona. Again, just in my mind, high scoring, 51 total points is expected. So Jahmyr Gibbs needs to be in there. Devon Achane, health and clear workhorse, caught 7 passes in 2 straight weeks. So I'm going to throw him in there again, especially if you're in a PPR format. Saquon Barkley at 6. Tough matchup against New Orleans, but he's going to probably try and redeem himself after not being able to catch that touchdown pass on Monday night. We got Jonathan Taylor. Again, a little bit of a tough matchup in Chicago, but playing against Chicago, but you need to put him in there. James Cook against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Game script looking like it can look the same as last week with James Cook, and coming off a ton of rest. He was playing that Thursday night game, so they've had about like 10 some odd days to get a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
Number 9, Kyron Williams. Again, same thing as Jordan Mason. One of the few healthy players. There's going to be a workhorse in this game. Kyron Williams for the Los Angeles Rams is the way to go. And then finally, to round it out, Josh Jacobs at 10. He had 34 attempts last week. I would think if Malik Willis is again going to be your starting quarterback, it's going to be the same exact idea. They're going to run the ball down Tennessee's throat, and that's going to be the goal. I actually have a sleeper.
Okay.
I like Zamir White on the week. I like Zamir White. He's the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. Hasn't been getting a ton. There was actually, talks of him like, is he going to split with Alexander Madison? No, they're playing the Carolina Panthers this week. That's usually the get-right week for guys like this where they're not really going to be passing a ton. The Raiders are, you would think, even with Andy Dalton coming in, the Panthers going to be losing. So Zamir White going to get some work, maybe even a goal line touchdown. That's going to be the goal. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I could definitely see that being a sneaky pick, considering that they are playing the Panthers this week.
Antonio Pierce went ahead and said he wants to get Zamir White at least 20 touches per game. So you can only go as far as if the coach says that. You have to take it for what it's worth. So I'm gonna go with them for now.
Subterfuge. Easy for me to say.
There we go.
Okay, going on. Wideouts.
Wide receivers, I have Jamar Chase as my number 1 this week. Like I said, he's looking for a big game. They're playing the worst secondary in the league on a Monday night, so it only makes sense in prime time that Jamar Chase, the star, is going to shine among all the others. CeeDee Lamb at number 2. If it is carrying on, Rishi Rice had a big game week 1 against the Baltimore secondary. Devontae Adams followed it up in week 2, had essentially the go-ahead, the game-tying touchdown. And now CeeDee Lamb, who was thought to be number 1 wide receiver on the year, is going up against the secondary. So I'm going to go ahead and throw him in number 2 with no problems. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a little banged up, but again, the high total puts me in there, makes me feel good. Rishi Rice of the Kansas City Chiefs, he's been their go-to guy. Same thing with Nico Collins. Yeah. I have him at number 5 on this week. He's C.J. Stroud's go-to. And I have number 6, Justin Jefferson. You're watching Justin Jefferson. No Jordan Addison, like I mentioned earlier in the injury rundown, but Justin Jefferson, he has that quad contusion, that quad bruise. So you're watching him, but he's going to play, and he's still going to do Justin Jefferson type things. So no worries there. I have 7. I have Devontae Adams playing the Carolina Panthers. So hopefully, like I said, you might get a first half out of him of a ton. If the Panthers want to keep it competitive, I would actually like that. I would need that for the squad because I do have Devontae in a couple of leagues, but. If anything proves to me last week, him and Gardner Minshew have been able to make that connection. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Number 8, I have Brandon Ayuk. Again, he's going to be the number 1. No Debo on the week, and he's probably going to and no Kittle most likely as well. Tyreek Hill. Now here's your big thing with Tyreek Hill. Skylar Thompson is your quarterback for Tyreek Hill. They've been able to make okay connections, but not the best over the small sample size that these guys have been able to play together.
Yeah.
So you see the one game where it's about 9 receptions for 60 some odd yards. You feel good if you're in a PPR format. Again, you have to play Tyreek Hill because you drafted him where you drafted him, most likely in the first round. So it's tough. On the other side, I'm sitting Jalen Waddle this week. He's my sit of the week. Again, until otherwise proven, you can't go that route. It's just not.
Really?
You just can't do it. I have other flex-worthy options that are better this week than Jalen Waddle until the connection between him and Skylar Thompson is proven to be real. Mm-hmm. Finally, to round it out at number 10, I have Marvin Harrison Jr. Along the same lines. Again, highest scoring on the week in that total game right there between the Lions and the Cardinals. But man, one quarter, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes off for 4 catches, 130, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, what a day.
Yeah. 1 quarter. That's pretty impressive output right there for the fantasy sports.
And I don't know if you heard his press conference afterward. He goes, Kyler Murray's only misses only targets that he didn't connect with were throw passes to me. So it was he had 8 targets on the day. He only caught 4 passes. He's like, we'll get that right. So we'll figure that out. Love hearing that from the young guy.
Little progression there. Okay, now. Oh, almost forgot to hit the bell. Tight ends?
Tight ends, I got a couple. Like I said, we can run through those. And tight end is always, it's right now this
tricky.
year, it's tough.
Very tricky.
There's a couple clear cut like number ones you need to have in there, but they're either going to get you 4 or they can get you as low as 1 just on 1 catch, or they can save your week like George Kittle had. He had 17 last week in the right way. So I got Trey McBride at number 1 and Sam Laporta both in the same game. So number 1, number 2, 1A, 1B type deal. My must start, or I have him at number 3, but I would honestly have them all at the same position. Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers last week of the Las Vegas Raiders showed that it's going to be him. It's going to be Devontae as the pass catchers there in Las Vegas. Gardner Minshew has a nice little connection there, and yeah, he seems to be. And that would have been probably got him late. I mean, you might have even got him in free agency, honestly, in some leagues. So that's a very nice move going forward with Brock Bowers being the guy. Again, Travis Kelce, same idea. You got to have him at least having the top 5 because he's Travis Kelce. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I like Dalton Kincaid a lot this week. I think between the Jags defense and just the way that they're moving, I think Dalton Kincaid can find the end zone. The uptick in the red zone targets. I think that there's a nice part there. I have Mark Andrews at number 6, and I also have Isaiah Likely in there as well. He's at number 8. In between, I have Kyle Pitts. They're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. But again, just that idea that Kirk Cousins, between him and Drake London, they need someone else to toss to. Kyle Pitts is a nice option, especially in the red zone. Big boy. He's tall. And then finally, last 2 spots at number 9, Dallas Goedert, and number 10, Jake Ferguson. I'm not, like I said, with tight ends towards the end of this top 10, you can almost make it a viable option for anybody. Even before the Thursday night game, you could have argued Hunter Henry because he had 10 receptions, but then again, goes out, has 2 for 9. So it's so hard. And I could sit here, I could rank anybody at any time of the week. You don't know. It's literally fantasy. It's random. It's going to be so crazy. So I love it, every single second of it. Sleeper in the tight end position, I'm going Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki of the Cincinnati Bengals, who's been a ton of receptions, tons of targets, and that's going to be the way to go there. And then just caution, I'm looking at Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's caught 4 passes each week on 4 targets, but not Justin Fields' number 1 go-to option. That's George Pickens for sure. So that's the tight ends for me.
All right. Now, any surprises for the Bears this weekend as far as fantasy goes?
What? Maybe not for the Bears themselves, but just on the defensive side, caution for Michael Pittman Jr. owners. He was a little banged up, questionable during the week, caught a limited practice towards the end. So that might be good for the Bears, might be good for the defense overall, who legit, that's the most lockdown legit side of the Bears. The only for sure thing you can say. It's the defense. They're legit.
Gotcha.
They're ready to roll.
All right. Thanks, Nick. You've been listening to the Fantasy Sports Half Hour with Nick Johnston in studio. I've been your host, Derek Geyer, alongside Mike Napolitano, and you've been listening to On the Rise, AM 1410 WRMN. Up next is The Truth About Chicago Sports, and I just want to say a special thank you to Matt McNeil in studio working the board, alongside with our program director, Dennis Sonar Green. If you have any calls or questions for us in the upcoming show, The Truth About Chicago Sports, please call in at area code 847-931-1410 and listen anytime on YouTube Live at WRMN 1410 AM.
WRMN1410.com or on the WRMN app. Wherever you are, we're right there with you. So why switch stations? Stick with the one that has it all.